So today, folks, I'm going to try something a little bit different. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about this month's March best baits. Y'all stay tuned. So how we doing? Again, MADRich fisherman subscribers and new people to the channel. I'd like to say thank you again, first and foremost. So today's video, we're going to be talking about this month's prime baits. So I got 5 prime baits I like to use in the month of March, early springtime. We've transitioned officially out of the winter month area, and now it's getting hotter, as many of you in this area is aware. We were in the high 70s today. So we had bluebird skies. We had a little rain that started early in the morning, over in the night, and for the most part the day was pretty bright, bluebird skies everywhere. So I'm going to talk about my 5 go-to baits in the month of March. And then I got an extra added bonus one that I like to use mostly all through the year, but it's a really good one. So the first one we're going to talk about is plastic worm. Now, there are very many plastic worms that are out there. This one here is the Zoom Mag 2. Now, the one thing about this worm I love is because it has this little curly tail on it. And if you know anything about bass fishing, bass love a little curly tail. It gives off a little kick, a little flare. Another good worm you could use would be something on the lines of a shaky head worm, which is mainly a trick worm. You can throw it many different ways. You can do this Texas rig. You can do this without any weight and just go with light line test and just a 3/0 EWG hook and go by this alone by itself. Another one of my favorite ones is the curly tail worm, which I don't have with me right now, but curly tail worms, they work great too because they add a little bit more chop in the water when they're coming through the water column. I like to use a 1/4 ounce bullet weight for those. As I said, EWG 3/0 hook. You run it across close to the bank, parallel with the bank. If there's a bass somewhere harboring in, they will always attack it. Really, any soft plastic around this time of the year is great. Anything from a wacky rig worm to a shaky head worm to a trick worm to a lizards. Most bass at this time of the year, they're pushing up to do the pre-spawn. They're looking for those beds to try to bed down, lay those babies, get out. What you'll find is that at this time of the month, this time of the year, that so many bass push up, you can almost sight fish them at this point. There's one fishery that I love fishing around here in the Memphis area called Hungry Fisherman. Has gin clear water around this time of the year. Literally, you can sight fish from the bank because you will be able to see all the fish. It is literally the most amazing thing. Which in turns leads me to bait number 2. Bait number 2, since we're sticking with the soft plastic idea, is a crawl. Now, this one here is a Berkeley power bait. I actually love this particular crawl because one thing about this crawl is that it's already weighted. It does have a hook cover and a guard, weed guard protector. So you don't have to worry about running it over brush piles, running it through grass. It rarely ever will get caught up. The cool thing is that, as you can see, is that it has that weed guard on it. As I said, it's already weighted. So it's actually already weighted. The one thing I love about these particular ones, these Berkeley power baits, is that they actually put BBs in the pinchers, which hopefully you guys can see that. But if you can't, there's the rattle that it makes. So If you're bringing this along the bottom, you throw it out there, let it sink. As soon as it hits the bottom, pop your line a couple times. It'll move these claws. These claws will jump and they'll rattle. Bass love targeting these. If you've caught any in the past month or so, probably within the past month, you will notice that most of the bass's lips are red. Reason they're red is because you can guarantee it, they have been eaten up on crawfish and things of that nature. So, with that being the case, that now leads us to bait number 3. Bait number 3 is for those who are targeting those big bass that are still trying to get a good, decent meal before they go into the whole pre-spawn and spawn time and all of that. And that bait is a glide bait. And this glide bait is my absolute favorite. It is the Flow Glide 130 made by 6 Cents. Now, there are 2 types. There is the slow sink and there is the fast sink. What I love about the slow sink, which is the one I use, the slow sink does sink slow, but it also gives you the widest turn angle. So if you twitch your rod once, this thing does a fast S, and it is so quick that if there's a bass anywhere nearby, they will not resist. They have to hit it. This one here is actually in the matte ice minnow color. I also have another one which is in the what they call shad scales. Absolutely love it. It's my favorite one. Actually, to be honest with you, anything by 6 Cents that gives the shad scales as the color pattern, I buy it. That could be blade bait, that could be crank bait, that could be glide bait, that could be a shallow diving crankbait, deep diving crankbait. For some reason, I absolutely love shad scales, and every time I fish anything that has shad scales on it, I catch fish. It's just really that simple. Which in turn leads us to bait number 3, or number 4 actually. That was the third one, so this is number 4. Number 4 is for if you are sight fishing, or if you're a fan of a good friend of mine, Will Arnold's, who one thing he loves doing around this time of the year is shallow crankbaiting. And his go-to bait, which has now become my go-to bait for shallow running crankbaits, it's 2 options. One is what's called the Swank 66, or if you don't have the 6 Cents version, it is called the Hybrid Hunter. If you notice on the bill has a L shape. It is for this to come through grass. And when you bring this through grass, it pushes the grass out the way. It's sort of like a weed guard in the front. But this thing gives such a loose wobble. There are so many bass that cannot resist this. To prove my point even more, if you've watched any of my previous videos, I have a snippet video. It's about 3 to 5 minutes long, and in that video I catch an almost 6-pound bass. That bass was caught on the big version of this in the same color. So, as I say, these things will cause bass to munch. The other one, which is Will's absolute favorite, is the Strike King KVD 1.5. Now, this 1.5 will only run about 2 to 5 feet. But for some reason, you put this up next to a wall or an embankment or anything of that nature, and there are fish that are bedding in or getting ready to bed, or they're just outside of the bed range, and you run this through there, this guy is going to get hooked. So that's my number 4 favorite bait for this time of the month. Number 5 is one that I absolutely love, and it's my personal favorite, and that is a lipless or some variation of a lipless. This here is the Jack 7. This is also a Berkeley bait. It's actually a really good bait. Another one of my personal favorite ones are the Guggen Squad lipless crankbaits. I love those because they actually have a different rattle in the rattle chamber. Another good one is the KVD Red Eye Shad. Those are absolutely great. The Sixth Sense that they have, their lipless crankbaits are great. Actually, there's a lot of different people who make lipless crankbaits, and each one, I will tell you, has their great thing about them. You have KVD that makes the hard knock. They got the one knock. They got the two tap. Each one of these crankbaits are basically the same. The only difference is the rattle chamber. The hard knock has a single BB that is bigger, so that when it hits and you hear the rattle, it's a very loud knocking noise. The two tap, it has two BBs, and whenever you're reeling it, it vibrates, so it hits the two BBs together, which is what you hear when you're hearing the rattle in it. The Guggen lipless crankbait. The Guggen lipless crankbait has, I think, 3 BBs in it, but the vibration and what the actual crankbait is, the lipless crankbait is made out of, makes a different noise when the BBs hit against it, which cause it to make a different noise. This Jack 7 has, I think, about 5 or 6 BBs in it in 2 different chambers. So as you can hear, it's really loud. So imagine you're reeling this in on 10, 12 pound test line, and even if you're not speed cranking it, you're slow cranking it, that's a crazy noise to hear, and most of the times this will irritate bass and they attack it because of that. Now, in the same lines of that lipless, we're going to talk about my absolute favorite bait of all, because I've caught the most fish on this bait out of any year in the past 3 years that I've been really more or less bass fishing. I've caught the most fish, some of the biggest fish that I've ever caught on this one bait. That one bait is a blade bait. Now, the reason I love this bait is because there are several different things that I love about this bait. But one of the main things I love is because of where the rigging options are for this. So if you look at the top of this bait, you will see that there are 3 holes in it. Wherever you put your line tie on this will change the variation of how this swims. If you leave it in the middle, it gives you a normal standard lipless crankbait move when you're reeling it. No matter if you reel it fast, slow, whatever, it does the same thing. It goes left to right. If you put it in the front one, it causes the front of the bait to stand still while the back of the bait moves left to right. And if you put it in the back one, it causes the front of the bait to wobble and the back of the bait to stay still. So each one changes the rotation and the vibration of how this bait actually works. The biggest thing I love about this bait is because of the way this bait is made. A lot of the weight on this bait is in the middle part of the body and in the front of the head. So if you have a rod, say for instance, or reel, say for instance, like a Corrado DC or an SLX DC or a Daiwa Tatua, any of these type of bait catchers, even some of your lures, you can have a BB1 Pro. My buddy Will is an infamous person of this. He has a Ozark Trail, and I forget the model of the one he has, but he throws his blade baits on Ozark Trail. And when I say you can cast these things a country mile, I am not joking. There are certain ponds that we fish, certain fisheries that we fish, that we can stand on one side of the bank and we can literally cast to the other side of the bank with these. These things will fly. So this is why, that is also one of the main reasons why this is one of my favorite baits. These baits will allow you to cast in locations, in places that you could not before with certain baits. And once you get to those locations, one of the main things I love to do is I let this bait sink for about 5 to 10 seconds. I actually count it out, if you're wondering. 5 to 10 seconds. And then the very first thing before I really start retrieving it is I give my rod a slight pop to where it sort of jigs it. And when I do that, I would say probably 7 out of 10 times, I get bit. That's the reason why I love this bait. That's the main reason. Now, as I said, those were my 5 best baits, but I just forgot. I said I had a secret one for you. Now, this secret one is a new one, but I just love the design of it. I bought some, a while ago, I bought some of these as sort of a thing to try because I saw it on someone else's YouTube video and the guy was really giving it a lot of praise. So I tried it to try it out. And lo and behold, because I did that, I fell in love with them. So this particular bait is a little different. This is what's called the First Gen Fishing Flash X Jig. It's a swim jig. Now, the reason this swim jig is different is because this swim jig does something that most other swim jigs don't do. This swim jig is a standard swim jig, but as you can see, it's a standard swim jig, has a normal swim jig head, hook, and everything. That's a 5/0, I think. Yep, that's a 5/0 hook. Has a nice hand woven skirt. Perfect. It's in a decently good color. You got green, low. What color is this? Oh, it's baby bass, actually. That's the name of the color, baby bass. You got a little blue in with a little green pumpkin and a little brown in there. Now, the reason I love this is because a lot of the first gen products are a little different. And when I say they're a little different, as you notice, there is a willow blade on this, sort of like a spinner bait. Now, the reason I love this is because you can put pretty much any trailer on the back of this. And when you're retrieving this, that blade is kicking the whole time, causing that flash, giving that bass something to target in on. And this, you can bring this right along the banks. If they're bedding up or getting ready to bed up and they see this, and you can put on, me myself personally, I would probably put on a freeloader that is sort of in the sunfish color to give it a little red highlights in it, or a little orange. And I would put this on this, and I would throw this, and I would throw this parallel to the bank, and I would beat the banks with this all day long. And I can guarantee you, you will definitely probably catch a fish on it. So those are my top 10 recommended baits for this month of March going into April. Once again, I want to take this time again to thank everybody for who subscribe, who watches my videos, those who share it, those who comment. Don't be afraid to comment. Ask me anything. I'm here. I'm an avid fisherman. I can learn from you. You can learn from me. So once again, everybody, I'd like to say thank y'all all for watching the video. Thank y'all for subscribing. Thank y'all for supporting me. It has been an awesome journey. This is continuing to be an awesome journey. And I want to tell all of y'all, thank y'all. So get out there, ladies, gentlemen, get out there and go fish, catch some bass. Send me some photos. I got a whole Facebook page. I got the YouTube page. Add it. By all means, do so. And send me some photos of some of these bass y'all are catching. And we'll just keep on doing it. Y'all have a good one.